Welcome to Invisible Beauties, a poetry workshop with Vicky Edmonds, part of the APDA Northwest Create Art series.
So I grew up in a family that was very difficult, and we really didn't have a voice in our home, and the truth was not allowed in the house, and which sounds like a strange oxymoron, but it really wasn't. And so when I was in the fifth grade, our teacher made us pick a name of a poem out of a hat, go find it in the library and memorize it. And I got this poem called The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert Service. I had nightmares for months. It was about a guy who freezes to death and then wants to be cremated so he can get warm. And I'm like, oh, dear God. I don't like poetry. And so, but I had to study for weeks to memorize it because it's a very long poem. And before it was my turn, I couldn't hear anyone else's poem being read because I was practicing. And after I was finally done and the blood stopped pounding in my ears, I could finally hear some of the other kids' poems that they were reciting. And I was listening to this one and I thought, oh my God, what is that sound? What is that sound of these words? And it took me a while to understand that that was the sound of someone's deepest truth. And I didn't even know that was allowed in the world, that you were allowed to talk about things that earnestly, that deeply, that truly, and then share it with anyone. I thought, oh my God, are they still alive, these people? Did they die of being that vulnerable? And so I started writing, and it really did actually saved my life in the family I grew up in. It gave me one place to be tethered to the truth so I wouldn't sort of capsize in the storms going on in my family. And it gave me a way to have conversation with others who are safe enough I could share a poem here or there, and then finally have sort of more true friendships and learn how to build relationships from there. So I'm now 63. I've been writing for 52 years. There are about 25,000 poems in my closet that my children will have to figure out what to do with when I'm gone. And I've told them that I wouldn't come back and haunt them if they just recycle everything. but each poem has taught me something more about myself. And I didn't know early on, that poetry could help us. I thought it was just somebody writing their thought or feeling down, but I didn't realize how much, if we used it as a tool in our own lives, how much it could help us every day. And I think the poetic elements, I teach elements rather than forms. I teach simile, imagery, personification, metaphor, those sorts of elements rather than forms like syncane or haiku or iambic pentameter. Those are sort of poetic math problems for me. But the poetic elements to me are kind of like these amazing, beautiful flashlights and shovels to sort of dig around in ourselves within, find out our deepest truths. And I think people have two main questions, all of us in our lives, and it's who am I and what am I here for? And the only way that we have a chance of finding out the answers to those questions is to sort of turn our glance inward and look inside and study ourselves and say, I've got all these parts, and what could be done with them? What can I do with this group of qualities? And so when I work with children, and Jen was saying that I've worked with kids as young as 3 years old writing poetry. Of course, we have to take dictation because they can't write yet, and up to about 97 years old so far. And I've worked with at-risk kids and adults in prisons and treatment centers and places like that. And it just gives us this amazingly beautiful depth of conversation. And I get to tell them that even though, this is our body, we're just this big on the outside, on the inside, each one of us is like as big as a universe. There's absolutely no end to the number of thoughts or feelings, hopes, wishes, dreams, ideas we can have, truths we can have. And the most absolutely beautiful parts of people are invisible, like our kindness and hope and forgiveness and generosity and friendship and love and truth. All of those things, all of those invisible things are the most important things, most important parts of us, I believe. And so poetry gives us a language to write about those invisible qualities of us in a way that people can see us better, in the way that we can see ourselves better. And I noticed, 25 years ago or so, that most people in the world, most of us have some little bit or a lot of this thing I call the worthlessness, this sort of unworthiness. And I think it's because we don't know that we're sort of sitting on a gold mine of beautiful qualities that we can use every day and we never run out. And if we make those apparent to ourselves, we can share them with the world and make something better. And I find that incredibly hopeful. My friends call me actually pathetically hopeful. so let's see. And forgive me, I have a little tickle in my throat today, so I'm drinking a lot of water. Today, what I wanted to do is introduce the first poem I do usually with everyone, because it's the easiest way in. If you've never written poetry before, using a simile, we're going to use simile today, is probably the easiest way to step into a poem. And again, even my beautiful little 3-year-olds at preschool can grasp this really easily, which I love. And so I think, again, this poem that we're going to do today, my curriculum is called Invisible Beauties. So we're looking for all the difficult and the beautiful things inside of us to work them through. And I think poetry is kind of like a two-sided breath. There's this out breath to let out everything a body just can't hold anymore, pain and sorrow, whatever it is, guilt sometimes, anger, even when we don't want to spill it on anyone else, we can put it on paper and not harm anyone there. And then this in breath, where we're kind of like breathing in light so we can look around inside of here and find out what we carry with us inside of us. So simile gives us a way to look inside. And so this poem is called Deep Inside. And it's a first glance. I want you to know that I've written this particular poem because I've taught this poem so much. I've written this poem over 1,000 times. And every time I get something different, I get a new image that pops up into my mind that tells me something about myself different today than I was yesterday or last week. I'm like, oh, that's where I am. One time, I get a lot of natural things in my images. For some reason, that's what occurs to me. A lot of flowers and water and oceans and lakes and things as my similes and metaphors. But one day I got a turtle and I'm like, I don't want to be a turtle. I'm like a turtle. What? But it seemed like the whole message of the poem, what that part of me was trying to tell me was slow down, just slow down. And I thought, wow, okay. So the image, of this turtle that I didn't want kind of came to help me a little bit. And one time I asked the kids, these teens, to take the first picture that came to mind. And then the first picture that came to my mind was a drip. And I went, yeah, I do not want to be a drip. But I thought, well, maybe I could be a drop instead. It's slightly better sounding. And what could one drop of water do, all by itself? And so anyway, I first want to show you the template that we're going to work with. And I'm going to share my screen here. And did all of you get the template? Did you get it emailed to you? So you've seen it, but I thought I would go over it with you anyway. So let's see, here we go. So this is my template. So, and this Deep Inside poem says, deep inside, I am like, and then you compare yourself to something. I am like, it could be anything. It could be anything that you like. If you like books, it could be I'm like a book, or if you like music, it could be like a song. If you like a particular color, I tend to go toward nature things, sun, moon, stars, clouds, sky, rain, flower, hummingbird, things like that. You'll find images. People have particular images that come up to them often. I get windows a lot also for some reason when I'm just waiting for something to pop up. But sometimes you can take the first thing that comes to mind, or you can take something that's meaningful to you and put it there. And I had a little boy once, a second grader named Devonte Lucas. He was so cute. And he said, I can't think of anything. And I said, well, poetry is really not about thinking so much. It's about daydreaming. So if you try not to think and just let an image, kind of float up into your mind and see what you get. And he was looking around like this, like, inside of his backside of his eyelids to try to find an image. And And I said, did you get something? And he goes, could it be something invisible? And I said, of course. I said, are you feeling a little invisible today? And he went, and so he wrote, I am like a gust of wind flowing through the air, seeking for an answer, but no one can see me. I get lonely. My greatest hope is to be heard. And this 8-year-old boy, and it was so precious to me. I started crying, and he just said everything. And don't we all want to be heard? And, the great news for me is that I have asked his permission, and I've gotten to share his poem with tens of thousands of people. He's probably in his 30s now, that little boy. And he's gotten heard. And so in some ways his wish got to come true, which I thought was just lovely. But so we first take the thing that we're going to compare ourselves to. And I always ask everyone to compare themselves to a thing rather than a person, because we're not really like any other person exactly. And when we compare ourselves to another person, we actually contrast ourselves with another person, and we see where we're less than, or, greater than, less than stuff comes up all the time. But if we compare ourselves to any object in the world, a bucket, a light switch, a pencil, anything at all, any object, we can see the good, we can see the usefulness, we can see that thing is trying to help with something, or else it wouldn't exist in the world, right? And so we can borrow that truth back into ourselves and look for our own good, because sometimes it's hard to look for our own good. Sometimes we think we might be conceited when we're looking for something good about us, but oh my gosh, don't we need to counteract the ways that we always see our shortcomings? At least I do. And so take an image and then say, for instance, I wrote one day, deep inside, I'm like a window. And then I said, so it says doing what, or, you could say where or doing what. If it was a tree, would it be where? Out in a field, or deep in a forest and it couldn't tell itself from everybody else. It's too enmeshed, or alone and can't find any other tree to touch with its branches. What's it doing? Is it swaying in the wind? Is it being struck by lightning? Is it, what's happening with it? So you can let the picture kind of turn into a little movie in your mind. And then what are the greatest strengths and difficulties and needs of that thing? So there was a boy in a class once who wrote, deep inside, I'm like a tree alone in a field, no one around me. I try to stay strong, but sometimes lightning comes, but I'm always trying to reach for heaven. So the strengths and the difficulties and the needs, and then the hopes, basically. How is that thing sincerely trying to make something better in the world, either for itself or for others? I think another child had written one about wanting to share its oxygen with everyone, using that tree metaphor. So these simple little these tools of simile and imagery, and these simple little objects that we can compare to, can tell not only others so much about us if we share them, but they can tell us about ourselves in ways that we didn't know about. I, early on, could not find one good thing about me. I was told early on that I was, sort of like a stain on the rug, better if I hadn't happened at all. And so to find, compare myself to a dandelion once because it was a weed, right? And then to say, but I'm trying to spread seeds of kindness everywhere. To find the good in that thing. And so I wanted to share a few more with you. I'm just going to hold them up so you can kind of see them. I remade them from the children's, most of them, so they'd be a little bit darker, but this was also from a second grade boy. And I do want to say, I shared children's poems because the children are so sincere. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're just true. They just don't know how to be anything else but true. And that's my favorite kind of poetry. It's not how intellectual was it, or how much did it impress anyone, but how sincere was it? How much of the truth of ourselves, are we willing to be, and how much longer can we bear not to be true? Right. So that's why I share the children's poems, just so you know. So this is from a second grade boy in a class who thought he couldn't write poems either. And I'll just hold it up to you. And it says, deep inside, I am like a life jacket trying to help my friends when they are sinking. One line poem. tells you everything about who that child is, right? Trying to help my friends when they are sinking. And one that I shared with the kids was deep inside, I'm like a window. Sometimes I feel strong enough to hold off 1,000 storms, but other times it feels like someone can shatter me with one mean glance. But I try to stay true enough to be clear, try to remain brave enough to stay open. And I want to always let in more light and hope. Pardon me, I always want to let more light and hope in and out of this room. Maybe then I can help us all see even a little bit better. And so just taking something like a window, thank you. Just taking something like a window. This was from this little first grade girl named Kaylin. And I thought this was kind of funny. I don't know that you can read it very well. So I'll just read it to you because in pencil. I am like a book searching for the inner me. My hope is to find out who I really am. My problem is to find those pages. Where do we find all those pages inside of us that tell the rest of our story, right? And then I thought this one was precious also. This was a 4th grade boy, and he said, deep inside, I am like a moon, trying to light up the whole world when it's stormy and windy, and trying to help people not be afraid of the dark. So you can compare yourself to anything at all. Actually, I do want to share one more that I wrote this morning because I always want to share a fresh one with you guys. So I just wrote this moments before we started the class, so you could hear a fresh one that hasn't been edited and retyped and so on. So I wrote, deep inside, I feel like part of a song. I can't remember all the words, but I hum and try to sing along, trying to remember. But I think I'm not the only voice. There are beautiful low notes needed for those harmonies and those with ranges higher than I can reach. But when I'm with others who are also longing to sing, regardless of whether they think their voice is good enough or not, and when we find those chords that touch so deep, we all fall helplessly into the warm explosion of the music, and we become music. Even standing in this room will change you as the music swirls all around. Please help me remember all the words, and together we can sing into the air so others can breathe more sweetly. So you could take anything you want. Oh, that one was mine, and 63. So I've been lucky enough to hear hundreds of thousands of this particular poem being read, and many kids use the same images, many adults might use the same image, and it's never the same poem. Never, ever, ever, ever heard the same poem, because it has your breath in it. It has your truth, the little subtleties that are different. So if you can, choose something, I remember one little 1st grade girl saying, I am like the color pink because I make people feel better. So any, you could do one line, you could do 20 lines, it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong way to do a poem. It's sort of like finger painting. It's your fingers and your color, and you get to swirl around any way you want to. And so what I would like, in just a moment, we're going to start writing, and I'm going to let you write for maybe 10 to 12 minutes. And maybe if I see people are still writing, maybe a little bit longer than that, if you need time to keep going. But you can write one or two. You can, I forgot to say, you can compare yourself to one thing and then compare yourself to something else and then something completely different. It doesn't all have to be the same, extended simile. You could, because we have so many aspects to ourselves that can't be contained maybe in one object. So, but before I'm going to stop sharing screen for a moment so I can see all of you. Before we start writing, let me tell you something else first. I guess I want you to try not to think too much, because sometimes we judge and edit our own writing before the pencils ever touch the paper. We think, I think, oh, mine's not going to be good enough. Mine's going to sound so trite and lame around everyone else's, and they're going to be so good, and I'm not going to read. And, but so often, if you just let the poem have you like a dream, let it take you somewhere, just keep following the images inside of you. And nobody will be forced to read, but sometimes when you let it just take you, it will take you into some place you've never been inside yourself before. And a lot of the kids that I work with that are middle school and high school level, I say, don't write only what you already know. How boring would that be? You already know it. Write into somewhere you don't know inside yourself and look around. Look around for all the beauty you didn't know was in there, that's been waiting for you to find it, because it's in there. And so you could also add, if you want, deep inside, my truth is like, my kindness is like, my generosity is like, my forgiveness is like. You could use that as well if you want to change it a little. I had a kindergarten boy once, and I said, who's got love inside of them? And he said, I do. And I said, okay, if your love could be any color, what color would it be? And he said, pink. It was the day before Valentine's Day, so everything was pink. And I said, okay, but it doesn't have to be pink or red just because of Valentine's Day. It could be your favorite color. It could be dark blue with silver stars. It could be purple with polka dots. And he said, pink. And I said, okay, pink. And I said, so what would you say your love is like? My love is like pink. What? Your love, unlike anyone else's love in the world. What's your love like if you were to compare it to something? He said, it's like pink air. And I went, oh my God, it is. I said, what's that pink air of love doing inside of you? Or when it comes out of you, how does it make other people feel? And he said, it makes everyone breathe sweeter. Only a kindergartner would say breathe sweeter. And I borrowed his line in the end of my poem before because I was remembering him. So you could use those as well. You could say deep inside, I am like, or my kindness is like, or my perseverance is like, or my strength, or my vulnerability, or anything you want. But before we start writing, I wanted to ask if there are any questions. Yes. Please forgive me. Phil, can you unmute?
I did. I am. Yeah. Where do you find these people?
In every school, in every classroom. It's amazing to me that I love working with children because they don't have the critic built in yet. And they're eager to read. Can I read? Can I read first? Can I read first? Whereas adults, we go, don't pick me, don't look at her, she might pick you, but it's so sincere, it just falls right out of them. And it restores my faith in the world and in humanity when I get to hear them. And that's why I love to share them in all my adult classes as well, because they're so precious. They're just so earnest.
You have a very calming voice, but I feel first I was going to be a lighthouse. Now I feel more like a pressure cooker.
There you go. You can even start that. I wanted to be a lighthouse, and suddenly I'm a pressure cooker.
Yeah. And then I want to be 6 again. That would be, then I wouldn't have to think of anything. It would just happen. Okay.
But you could take the first one and follow it as far as it wanted to go. And then you could take the second one. And sometimes they mix together in ways you didn't know. Sometimes the lighthouse becomes a pressure cooker and you got to remember to open the windows and breathe, right? So
I will try. I will try.
Yeah. And again, try not to judge anything that you're writing. Try not to, there's plenty of time. I mean, we have no shortage of time somehow in our lives to judge ourselves, right? So during the time you're writing and after we've written, please, please, please don't judge anything you've written. If you want to change it, cross it out, but don't even erase it. Just cross it out with one line in case you want to come back to it later, because it's really more true, that line that you wrote, but maybe it was a little too vulnerable for a moment. Just keep it there. You don't have to share it if you don't want to. And I will admit that I do beg people to share. I actually beg. I don't force, but I do beg because it reminds me how we're all alike. We are all so similarly trying so hard, and so hard on ourselves sometimes, but so earnestly trying to find our way through this world and kind of figure out the object of the game and pass the tests before we leave. And so when each of us shares their poems, I think it strengthens everyone who's lucky enough to hear them. So I will beg, but I won't force you to share. Okay. Any other?
The object of the game. Wow, that is all encompassing. If you thought of life, and you were at one point, you're just kind of going, what? Okay, everybody stop. What is the object of this game? Make money, be healthy, good looking. What is the object of this game? And I'm willing to play it.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell the teens that I work with, and you only get about 100 years to figure it out. So, yeah. Right. and perhaps every single person's object of the game is a little bit different than everyone else's, but we need all the parts, just like a body needs every single part to work well together. So, okay. Any other questions before we start writing? Okay, so we're going to write till, I'm going to say 10:20 to 10:20, 2 or 3, somewhere in there, between 10 and 15 minutes. And if you finish one, try another. And again, if you write several of them, that would be awesome too, because all we are is sort of, studying the contents of this kind of miraculous package of the human being of ourselves to find out, who am I and how can I be the most well used in the world? And I want to give everything, I want to give all the gifts out of my pockets before I leave the world. So I don't want to leave with anything that I haven't given away. So, all right, now I'm going to stay on. And if you have questions, everyone else, if you want, you can mute. But if you have a question, I'll just leave my mic on and my camera on so I can talk with anyone if you have a question, if you get stuck, So for instance, if you're a bird flying, then you could say, doing what? Well, flying through the sky, or is it stuck in a storm? Is it nesting? Is it got its head under its wing because it just doesn't want to look at the world right now? Is it is it trying to figure out where south is? And just try to imagine, ask yourself questions about that thing and try to see what it's doing and what it most needs, what it most wants. You want the template back? Okay, absolutely. I will share my screen again and bring the template back if I can find it. There we go. There you are. So, okay. If you're still writing, feel free to continue to write pretty much for the next, 50 years or so. And I'm hoping, begging that some people will share. Would anybody be willing to? Phil will share. Yay. Thank you. Will you unmute and thank you.
No, I'm gonna defer to Judy for the first opening. She put her hand up too.
Oh, thank you so much, Judy. Let's see, where are you, Judy? There you are, Judy.
Deep inside, I'm like a hummingbird outside my window, flitting about like a whirlwind, going from one thing to another, as I drink from the fountain, at the fountain of life, hoping to be strength for my family, the conundrum of this diseased body of mine.
That was stunningly beautiful. There was such a tenderness in it, and that hummingbird image, that fluttering, that beautiful fluttering, and that nectar, trying to feed your family. And it is a conundrum, isn't it? That was beautiful. Thank you.
Font is a good word. That was a good image. You said font, right, Judy? F-O-N-T.
Fountain.
Oh, fountain. Still good.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you for being willing to be first. Sometimes it's hard to be the person that breaks the silence. And Phil, did you want to go?
Okay. I am like a lighthouse, scanning all 360 degrees. Each time I swoop by, I have to untwist my knees. I am a helper, a beacon in the dark. Many times I save nothing, and I think this is just a lark. But when I spot trouble, when trouble spots me, I focus on the screams below, and with light I set them free.
Oh, lovely, 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 lovely. Oh,
I don't know if we're supposed to necessarily rhyme. I don't think we're supposed to do anything really, right?
Yeah, the great thing about poetry is that there's no supposed to. You get to, it's the one form of writing that you get to do any way you want to. E.E. Cummings threw away all the capital letters and the punctuation because he just didn't like them. You really get to do it any way you want. But I love that. I never rhymed well, and so I didn't rhyme. And then lately I found that I've had some accidental rhyme in my, sort of more of a rhythm that showed up in some accidental rhyme and I thought, maybe there's some resolution that happens in that, as well. Plus all music is written that way. But I love that line too about, trying to spot the trouble or with the trouble spots you. But I love, sometimes I save nothing, but like, if you weren't there and there was something to save, what then, right?
If an emergency happens, does a tree fall in the forest or something along those lines?
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully the lighthouse never sees trouble. Hopefully no one is ever in danger on the rocks. But thank God the lighthouse is there for maybe those moments.
Did you start to rhyme when you started to drink wine?
No.
Okay. Here, the hook.
I think a lot of limericks were written that way.
Okay. Right.
Thank you so much. Yes. Leslie, will you share?
Yes, I'd like to.
Thank you.
Deep inside, I am like a river gushing forth from the center of the earth, seeking to find and resuscitate those thirsty ones, longing for nourishment. Difficulty lies in me, holding fast to the hidden wish denied, that I too long for nourishment. For what I seek is to know and be known. I'll try to decipher the last line. What is it that holds me back? What help me lean in? If I listen, I may hear.
Yes.
This is the essence of my challenge in life, actually.
I love that. I kind of want to hear the whole thing again because there were so many images, and I try to take notes so I can go back to them. But coming from the center of the earth, the river coming from deep inside the center of the earth, and you try to find and resuscitate. And I couldn't write any more than that because I was listening to the next line. But that find and resuscitate, like that sheer kindness inside of us, right? I believe we all have it. I think it's trained out of some people, it's beaten out of some people, but there's a sheer sort of a holy human kindness in us that wants to be of service somewhere, wants to help, wants to contribute, wants to, have meaning, a reason for being, right? I love that find and resuscitate. And then also that question, I didn't get to write it down, but what do I need? What feeds the river, right? What will feed the river? And you could even, if you want, follow that, what does feed the river? The rain of, kindness from loved ones, or you could figure out, we can sort of do the backward metaphor and ask ourselves, what is it that feeds me if I was the river?
I think of the reflecting point where the river pulls in a quiet place, and
the
mirroring that you didn't receive as a child.
Beautifully.
You, but it was really your parent, the accurate reflection of your true self.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that was so gorgeous. Thank you. And again, somehow getting to hear these images, it's like auditory medicine for me. They're so soothing, right? They're even when people write about difficulties that are going on, the earnestness itself is soothing. It's comforting to not have to be part of the truth all the time. I'll show you this much of me, but there's a whole bunch back here that's not going very well. So I'm not showing you that part, and so
I'm withholding it.
yeah. And so I love when we get to have safe places to be true. And that's what I tell the kids that I work with too. I think the way to measure a good poem is how true was it? How true could we be? Yes, Douglas and Paul.
Hi there. I've gone ahead and volunteered my old man here. He was too shy, but I thought it would be worth sharing.
Thank you so much.
Certainly. He spoke and I just wrote. So here we go. It's called Deep Inside. I have become again a late student. Ahead of me was a friend who said, "Hey, can I read your poem?" What poem? The one that's due today. I was facing death. I didn't get the news until too late. Liberal education, literal exhaustion. I did not finish this poem, but I finished the truth of what I was writing. Seeking embarrassment, improvising furiously if needed. It wasn't about the grade. Somewhere within the innovation process, I recognized the desperation. I told myself I was not prepared for this type of change in this world. I was wrong.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. That was absolutely beautiful. That was, okay. It felt so much like all of our lives, like, oh my gosh, I'm the late student. I don't have the assignment. It's like all the scary dreams I have about not being prepared for something and then winging it and trying to make it through and then finding out you were right where you were meant to be learning. It felt like that was gorgeous. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you because I couldn't hear you because, could you say again?
I want to point out this is based on a true happening. I was not arrested for this or anything like that. It was very helpful to have my son here, telling me that I don't have enough laundry to keep me away. So we'll work on it, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's see. Would anybody else be willing to read, please? Oh, Ruthie, I see your hand. And thank you.
Talking about rhyming, and actually when I went by the pattern, I didn't think about rhyming, but then I also thought about every day.
Yeah.
I have lots of poems coming through me and I'm talking in my head or outside, but there's no recording. I guess sometimes I think I'd probably need to put a recorder on me because
your phone has one.
I would never, pardon?
Your phone, most phones have like a voice memo.
I don't carry that around.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, but I thought, well, they'll come back sometime, or maybe they won't. I don't know, because I would never remember what they were, but they were rhyming. This, I don't know whether this probably doesn't rhyme at all because I went by.
Wonderful.
Okay, deep inside, I'm like a ball of energy, anxiously, but forced to patiently wait for the time when I am allowed to release the creative new and/or unattained aspirations. My mind has been so ready, but my body wants to make it difficult. During this time of being forced to be still and keep this creativity at bay, I am able to see thoughts, insights, revelations, memories, blessings, people, and the world in a different way, in different ways. Also revealing things I thought I knew, but realizing that life is continual growth of seeing that you really don't know what you thought you knew, and how you can use the growth to help others see things in different ways.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that. So, the mind is ready, but the body, is holding back.
My body and my mind fight all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. But in that being forced to be still, then all those memories and ideas and thoughts and learnings and all that stuff that then you can share. You know, I love your poem so much because it reminds me that I wondered early on in life if I could make my own meaning out of anything that happened. Like if something happened difficult in my family, did I have to keep it as a difficulty, or could I find how it could help me become a better person in some way? You know, and so you had the stillness that came, whether you wanted to or not, the ball of energy that's made to be still. But then all this beauty came out of it, all of these memories, and you know, all of those things, and the beautiful line about whenever we think we've learned something, we realize we haven't yet, and there's more to see. And in our busy moving lives, how sometimes, you know, it's amazing to be still. I guess sometimes we're forced to, and it doesn't feel wonderful to be forced, but
it's hard for me to be still. So I keep learning. I guess that's why my body and my mind aren't together, because I keep wanting to do what I used to do when I can't do it. So I just have to say, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, body, you know, you want me to be still again. Okay. But someday
yeah.
I keep feeling I haven't given up on overcoming this.
Yeah.
I don't know where everybody doesn't. I mean, the medical, they're good, but they don't know everything.
Right.
They don't know
Yeah.
the fortitude that you have in you, or what's going to be brought to you. So
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. But I would say too, I know you say you have these thoughts and then you don't have a way to record them. I have like little notebooks like this that I could stick in my shirt pocket or my sock or my water bottle holder or something, so I can always go somewhere with a sheet of paper and a little pen with me, just in case you wanted to just start carrying around.
I would probably never do that. It would have to be an automatic recording, something that just keeps going, because I would never stop to do that. I would just, you know, because it comes when I'm doing other things. My mind and my body are just going all the time.
Yes. But thank you for sharing that. That was gorgeous. The gifts that come from the stillness, even when the stillness is forced. Thank you. Yes, please, Emily.
Okay, I'm unmuted. When I looked at the deep inside, an image of the ocean came to me, currents. So I wrote, gypsy ocean current flowing with tides in the faces of the moon, arriving, leaving, with wild heart and itchy soul. Home is everywhere and nowhere.
That was gorgeous. That was gorgeous. I almost see it like a painting on a, you know, on a card or something, you know, like that wild gypsy, that the beauty of that coming and going, the itchy soul. I love that. What was the line just before itchy soul? The something
wild heart,
wild heart and itchy soul. I like that. I like that. That was really beautiful. It almost looked like a painting inside of my mind. I could see all the depths and the colors, and thank you. Yes, Doris, please.
Okay, and I also want to echo that I love the wild heart and itchy soul. That was just such a beautiful line. That was great.
And I'll say too that each person's poem sort of almost like spotlights a part of ourselves that we might have forgotten about in some way. And I think I used to have a wild heart and itchy soul. Where did that go? Thank you, Doris.
Okay, here we go. Deep inside, I am like a Roomba vacuum cleaner, clearing the space in front of me. I am cordless, so I can go in any direction, wherever my instincts lead. I am mindful to be careful that I don't fall off the edge of the stairs or get tangled in the fringe of Turkish carpets. I have a powerful and long-lasting motor for energy, yet must be plugged in to rest and restore my power source. By vacuuming the dirt up from my path, I can appreciate the clean and clear surroundings that make up my life, thus freeing me to explore any path that beckons.
Yay, that was great. I love that line. When I vacuum up the dirt from my past, can you read the rest of that line to me? The clean and clear around you.
I can appreciate the clean and clear surroundings that make up my life.
And And
thus freeing me to explore any path that beckons.
Stunning, 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 stunning. And I love that too, because for me, I feel like I want to clean up my messes before I leave the world. We're human, we're going to make a million mistakes, but I want to clean up my mistakes if I can. I want to say all my thank yous and my I love yous and my I'm sorry's before I go, that I owe people, and clean up. And that feels like that same kind of feeling that I got from your poem, that I want to then is clean and clear in any path that beckons me. Then I can go because I'm not held back by those old pieces. That was gorgeous. I thought it was so funny that you got the Roomba vacuum too. And I love that it was cordless.
I don't know where that came from.
But I love that set. I think it's that dream part of our mind that sends us little, message in a bottle, right to the back, from the back of our mind to the front of our mind. But the fact that it was cordless, all this intuition that it has, not to go over the stairs or get tangled in the Turkish fringe, all of that beautiful intuitive knowing that it has. Never would have thought of that in a vacuum. I love it. Lynn, would you read?
Deep down, I'm like I'm sorry, let me start over. Deep down, I'm like a dragonfly, wishing to fly free of negativity, disappointment, pain, and selfishness. Instead, to reach for the sun for hope and optimism. Like a dragonfly, I feel determined to remain strong no matter what comes my way. I reach for gratitude and in addition look for all the gifts of life, which I mostly find in nature, family, and friends. My wings are the strength I receive from my amazing support group, Shakers Anonymous. The group is the wind beneath my wings that helps me soar. They are not Parkinson's patients, but Parkinson's warriors.
Oh my gosh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love the image of that dragonfly. They're magic, right? And so that tells me about all that sort of iridescent magic in you, which is its own sort of, it almost uplifts itself, that iridescence. And I love that you are wishing to fly free of that. But I love the line, reaching for gratitude. That was stunning, because we're all reaching for something. And, for the first part of my life, all I paid attention to was what might be wrong, and now I'm like wanting to looking for what might be wonderful. Right. And I love that, reaching for gratitude. Way to have your priorities in a beautiful order. Way to go. Stunning. Joan, would you share?
Yeah, this is where I am today. Deep inside, I am like a whirlpool, swirling and spinning, sometimes with joy, sometimes with confusion, sometimes with deep energy, sometimes overwhelm, wishing to be able to see all the information that is speeding by, the knowledge, thoughts, feelings, experiences. And the point of it all is in there somewhere, maybe in the middle, where I am, maybe in the watching, where I am, maybe in the wishing, where I am.
Lovely, lovely. And I love how it could be spinning with this joy and also confusion. It's, and yeah, trying to just, there's too much in the world to learn to ever be able to learn everything or know everything. But I love when you said again, what the point of it all is in here somewhere.
Right.
And maybe it's right here where I am, because again, each of us is the only one who can possibly know the answer to those two questions. Who am I and what am I here for? No one outside us can tell us. They could give us a lot of advice we may or may not ask for, but they don't know, because they're not in there listening to the particular pulls and draws and intuitions of you in the center there with the wishing. That was gorgeous. Thank you.
Thank you. And I started another one about, I'll just tell you the beginning of the next one.
Please.
My heart is like my garden. There are some plants that were put there on purpose, and a bunch more that grew there on their own. Maybe a gift from the neighbors, or maybe a weed from the past that has deep roots and keeps popping up to remind me of my history and humanity. Some flowers bloom when I remember to water. Some fruit ripens at the right time and in its own season.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Kirsten, will you share?
And I was inspired by Phil's headgear today. So deep inside, I am like a baseball cap, doing my best to cover up fear, sadness, anxiety, a bad hair day, while offering supportive words like a cheerleader for a favorite sports team or a slogan for a worthy cause or something that makes me smile. Hoping my message is heard with the passion and love intended, knowing there's a lot going on underneath.
Oh, beautiful. You know, I love that too, because, you know, sometimes we kind of put a mask on so people can't see. And other times we could put on a cap. So, you know, there's all this going on underneath. I'll let you see it, but I'm still going to try to like lift your spirits here and share you. You know, that's lovely. That's lovely. That's not hiding, but like acknowledging all the parts and choosing to give off something sweet. Thank you. Thank you. Jen, will you share?
Deep inside, I am like a tree, my trunk stable and solid, with my roots collecting nourishment from nature. I am not the mother tree, but part of a worldwide community of shared needs for water, light, food, family, and connection to one another. I thrive within this community, allowing me to grow and change. My branches reaching up and outwards, seeking to find and taste new air. There are other trees around me who give me shade when I need it, and my leaves are always eager to shade and embrace others in need. There are storms and fire that come and try to take our forest down, but together our roots are strong and we are resilient.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I got such this community feeling in the tree, but then the forest, and then these, you know, then the air and the roots suckling up all the nutrients and the stability and the solidness and what you give, but what you gain in this exchange, just like the carbon dioxide oxygen exchange of, you know, of trees, how we can't live without them and they can't live without us. In that way, it feels like you do the same thing in your work and in your life. Isn't it gorgeous to be invisibly connected like this? I mean, we're separate bodies, but we're breathing each other all day long. You know, part of, you know, all of the air that's ever been breathed by any human in the world has gone through my lungs also. You know, and we're part of each other in that way. And that's the feeling I got from your poem, that gorgeousness of sharing that. Danielle, would you like to read?
Sure.
Yay!
It's very short and it needs to be added to, but I'll give you what I have here.
Thank you.
Deep inside, I'm like a delicate flower blowing in the wind, the beauty of which is unparalleled and only wants to bring joy and happiness into the world.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Oh, thank
gorgeous,
you.
Gorgeous. Again, every poem is, to me, it feels like either a little movie or a little painting of some kind, that suddenly I've got an entire art gallery installation in my head from these poems, right? And they're so soothing to just have floating around inside of me. I just love it. So this is what I wrote when we were all writing, and I suddenly fell into inquiry, and it's another one of my favorite poetic elements, where you just ask questions, and even if you don't know the answers, just keep asking the questions. And then I fell into the deep inside part after, at the end. So how deep are the depths inside of me? How much of this thing I call me is there to go find? If I lower myself into the well inside, will I find the underground spring of me and be able to follow it back high up into the mountains and then back up into the sky, into the clouds of heaven? Is that where we've all come from? What caused us to fall? Or did we jump at the chance to come to the world and create beauty? Were we hopeful? Were we scared? Were we brave and ready to be suckled up into some amazing growing thing that could teach us all the secrets of blooming? Deep inside, I can feel the water of me warming, wanting to be comforting to anything around me. I want to be like walking bath water, wanting to soothe every soul that's willing to be near me. I want to share one more middle school girl poem from, 2014, I think. And she was so quiet. She barely spoke in this summer 2-week program that we had at Seattle Center Academy. And so we were writing this same poem, and she called this poem Hidden. You know, so deep inside, I am so hidden. A crystal seen only when the rock is split. The sweet cherry surrounded by a mask of dark chocolate. Nectar of a closed flower, soon to make honey, but not yet. Hidden beauty kept a secret until sun shines, teeth bite, chisel cracks, and then bursting forth for all to see. I just love that.
Wow. Wow.
Everything they write. I just love everything that falls out of people so earnestly when we just give it an opening. You know, just take a paper and pencil. Don't judge. Don't have to read. Just make an opening. Let it fall out, and see what we learn from ourselves, about our movements with others in the world, and how we can do all of it in a better and even sweeter way than we've ever known how to before. And I think poetry can be, you know, it can be the flashlight and shovel. It can be the scalpel if we need a surgery to let out some of the pain and the difficulty. And, you know, it can be the window into us that helps us see in our own chest. And I think we can let it help us with millions of things. So please resort to poetry whenever you need it. So soothing. These classes for me are more beautiful. Like I said, I didn't grow up in a very safe family, and so I don't go to family gatherings because there's a lot of dangerous people there. But these to me feel like what I thought family gatherings might feel like in a family where the people were kind to one another and really wanted to hear what each other had to say, and were, you know, like had that intimacy of kindness between one another. So thank you. I get to have my greatest sense of family, besides with my two sons, with people in my classes, and I'm so grateful for it.